Welcome to this very special episode of the Coaching Circle. And today we're talking about women's health. And this is definitely a topic that I am super invested in because number one, I'm a woman, but number two, and most importantly, I'm a woman now in my 50s and I pay much more attention to my health than what I ever have before. And I'm really super excited to have a beautiful guest, not just because she's a wonderful person, but this is actually my first guest on the podcast in about 6 months. And so that's very exciting as well. Today's guest, Cristie Shuttleworth, is a holistic life coach. She's a personal trainer, a hypnotherapist, an NLP master practitioner, and she helps midlife women create healthy habits for a life they love so they can feel strong and calm and content in their own skin. And I love this. Now, Cristie's got a very fascinating background as a designer in the fashion industry that was a big focus for her before starting her business 16 years ago, My Own Kind. And we're going to hear more about this in a moment from Christie herself. But if you have an interest in women's health and particularly things around perimenopause or menopause or, other types of chronic conditions, then absolutely there's going to be something here for you. And I think this is really relevant for people in business, women in business as well, which I'm excited to talk to Christie about. So without me banging on anymore, welcome to the Coaching Circle, Cristie Shuttleworth.
Thanks, Tony. It is a pleasure and an honour to be here and to allow me to be able to share some of the things I'm most passionate about in women's health, especially through midlife and in business and how it relates to business, definitely.
Yeah, I'm really on for this because, obviously I help a lot of people in business and a lot of women. I do help a lot of men in business as well, but I work with a lot of women and especially women that are over sort of 45, 50. And, I think at this age, especially, there's a lot of things around stress that become very, relevant. And I think this ties in so well to business and the things that I see. But before we get into that, I really want to start with just finding out a bit about what actually led you to start your business, Christie, and why is what you do so important to you?
Um, yes, the backstory is always so important, isn't it? Because that's what gives it the passion, I think. So from a little kid, was always involved in dance and sport, and being active and being outside. So then when I was about 8, I started sewing, and that created this passion of mine of sewing and creating. My mum was a great sewer, so I wanted to be a fashion designer, and it was like a very defined thing that I had to do. So that's what I became. I went to Melbourne to RMIT, did my Bachelor of Arts in Fashion in Melbourne, and then I ended up working in Australia for a little bit, and then I ended up going overseas, and I was in the fashion industry for 18 years. I was in the States for 2 years and then the UK for 10 years, and I completely burnt out. I had no work-life balance. I had a predisposition to that. I'm not blaming that on the fashion industry, but it was certainly an industry that could allow me to do that. That was the all-nighters, lots of international travel. Yeah, and it was kind of a recipe for burnout for me, which by the age of 36, I was diagnosed with the autoimmune disease of hyperthyroidism called Graves' disease. And that meant an overactive thyroid where the thyroid was, my body was attacking itself. I had no idea what that was about. But just to give you a bit of a visual on this, what drove me to going to the doctors, this back in London, was it would be the middle of winter. And because I was also so active, I would ride my bike from where I lived in Islington to Oxford Circus. It would take me 20 minutes. In the middle of winter, snowing, I would be in a tank top. I was so hot all the time. It was, so I fully know I've just been through perimenopause and out the other side. I know what hot flushes are like, but they're nothing compared to what I felt like when I had undiagnosed Graves' disease. I was hot all the time. I could barely go to a restaurant. Um, During winter, I would just be in lightweight tops, t-shirts, and it was kind of hell. on the inside, and to then get it diagnosed as a disease that was like, well, you can take medication, but really you've got this for the rest of your life, which that really hit me super hard. And I ended up, this is around the GFC time, I had applied for a job back in Australia. And it was a really amazing design and brand. And it was going to be being the creative director for the team. It was my dream job. And
Mm.
then went through two interviews. I already put my stuff on a shipment container because it was happening. And then at the last minute, they pulled the pin because of the GFC, and all the funding for that brand got pulled.
Oh,
And I was like, what am I going to do? So I actually decided this is the universe telling me, go ahead, do it. And I moved back to Adelaide and I lived with my parents. I was staying with my parents, and I wanted to also share this bit because I think this is important too. Going through that sort of life change of I need to do something different, but I don't know what. Because I had friends in the industry, in the fashion industry in Australia, saying, well, where do you want to work? Like, we've got connections here, there, everywhere. And nothing lit me up. And I just felt like all I know is I don't want to do this anymore. So I went down to Glenelg and I sat with a pad and paper looking at the beach. And I wrote down in two columns what I love doing and what I hate doing and I never want to do again. And it
mm.
was came out plain as day. I want to be a personal trainer. I want to change people's lives and in the process help me to learn how to be good to myself.
Ah,
And I didn't look back. Said to mum and dad, can I live with you while I study? And yes, I did that and got on my feet, worked in the biggest gym in Adelaide for 8 years, worked amongst about 30 other trainers, most of them men. Most of the time there was two women trainers there in amongst about 28 men. And it was an amazing experience for me. But I got to the point where it's like, I can't offer the change work that I want to offer to my clients, my female clients, in that setting. So that's when I transferred to creating a private studio at home, which has been now another 8 years. So that's kind of my
wow.
story.
Wow, that is super fascinating. And that's a big change. Well, it's interesting actually, Christy, because, I know. And I'd like to ask you this question because I know for me, my background was accounting and then I went into coaching, and people would always say, wow, they seem like completely different kinds of industries. But in my mind, it like just made so much sense because I'm like, well, accounting's a lot of problem solving and coaching's a lot of problem solving. Is that relevant to you in changing industries, or were they just both completely different?
No, there's definitely that similarity in the problem solving. And because I used to do this on my friends for quite a few years when I was still a designer as well, because I bought so many health and well-being books, and that's back in the day before when there were still book clubs. I used to be part of a book club, and and you have to buy a certain amount per month, and I'd always choose the health and well-being ones out of that lot, and I'd be saying, "Oh, you're craving figs and Brazil nuts. Oh, let me look it up. Oh, that's because of such and such, that sort of thing."
Ah, yeah.
So I always had a bit of a tendency for that, and also such a strong connection to exercise. So while I was still a designer, I was doing marathons and mini triathlons and stuff like that. Exercise was my attitude adjustment. It was my coming back to myself. So it was an
Mm,
obvious transition for me in that way, but also with clients forever. As long as I've been working with clients, is always problem solving. And it's also creative and being
mm,
able to pull from the resources that I have to go, what's relevant? Yes, that, but also playing detective, especially these days for me that's kind of where I love working in this area where women come to me where they've been to this specialist and these different practitioners, but there's been gaps. And I'm looking for the gaps or the root cause that they haven't found yet. So it's
mm.
definitely problem solving and also adapting and tailoring just to that individual. Because when I was a designer, I didn't have my own business for a long time. And I used to do a lot of like wedding dresses and tailoring and alterations and that type of thing, where it is very much personalized service.
Oh, yeah, that's super fascinating. I love that connection there for you. And I would say this is often the common thing. I haven't done enough research to say if this is always the case, but I'm glad that that worked out for you as well. And you know what you were just saying then, Christy, about people going to the doctors and there are gaps, and you could tell me you would know more about this than me, but my understanding is often for doctors. They do a process of elimination to work to say what the problem is. So it's not like, oh,
Yeah.
this is happening for you, this is what you've got. They're like literally going, well, it's not that, it's not that, it's not that, it's not that, so it must be this. Is
Well,
that
it, for
like an
example, would
accurate
be
kind of?
totally, it's like saying chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia because it's a, you can give it, they can give it a name, but it's not specific that that's what it is. Fibromyalgia in the name is saying it's a transient thing that moves around and it's not specific.
Mm,
So yes,
it's
it's
some kind
very
of like
much the
pain that we
case.
can't
Yeah, yeah,
pinpoint.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I totally respect the Western medicine model, the Eastern, all the bits in between. The German medicine model, there's some
Oh yeah.
amazing stuff with that as well. But like they have to stay in their lane, and I understand that. So the perspective I take is more of a overview to then go, okay, so then what's missing? And I have lots of different questionnaires that I get clients to do to help to discover where those gaps might be, but also
Mm,
marrying in the physical with the emotional as well. With women, we are emotional beings so much more than men in general that even looking at a person's timeline from when they were born through to today, and
mm,
as women, I'm sure you probably can relate to this too, Tony, that if someone got they asked you questions or you filled out a questionnaire, a week later you're going to go, oh, I forgot to put that in. Like how
yeah.
many times? Because we just put it to the back behind,
Well,
like,
yeah. But I think also cycling, I know for myself in a month, how I feel about something this week is not necessarily going to be the same as how I feel about it next week.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
One week I'm
yeah,
like, woohoo, yeah, I can do this and I can conquer the
yeah.
world. The next minute's like, does my life really have meaning?
Yes, or that you're having a headache or having in a bad mood, and then you have a really good bowel movement. I'm sorry, but sometimes that can help. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy the
Yeah.
chemistry that changes in a human body, then into a woman's body, even more so. Yeah.
Yeah, and do you know what else has popped to my mind as we're talking about this? Because obviously, being like I turned 50 this year, and a lot of my clients are, sort of in their 50s or, really close to that kind of space. And there's a lot of talk about perimenopause and menopause and all these kinds of things. And I'd have to say, up till now, I'd say I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm really lucky, but I don't think it's all luck. My mum, I think, had a hysterectomy in her late 30s, I think. So I don't have a lot of data, um, but I'm always going, oh, how will I know if I'm perimenopausal or whatever? Because it seems like all these people seem to know for sure that they are. And I look through, the symptoms and I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe, but nothing terrible. But then I look through what are the kinds of things that you should do to like, you know, manage
Mm,
really well in that time. And I'm like, well, I probably do all of those things. So, diet wise and exercise wise and, these kinds of things. But the other thing, though, I really think is it's the amount of emotional work that I've done. Because,
yes.
like, that's what I think I notice is that the biggest thing I've noticed is I've probably got less tolerance for crap. I've got less desire
Yeah.
to want to pick up after other people or manage other people or, do all that kind of
Mm,
stuff. And I think if I hadn't done as much emotional work as I had, I think I would get a lot more wound up about stuff and a lot more overwhelmed. What are your thoughts on all of that?
oh, we could spend days on this. Yes.
Yeah.
But that's very true. I completely agree that that is probably would have definitely served you really well doing the emotional work.
Mm.
Um, that I've made a anecdotal correlation of hot flushes with anger and resentment with
Ah,
clients. Yes, yes, yes. I also
yep.
love the saying, which not it's not menopause related, but I think it was an Alex Butane who said it, that what we don't deal with at 3 p.m., we deal with at 3 a.m. That there's a lot
Mm.
of stuff that we that I think, especially when we come to menopause, that then it's kind of like the tsunami of all the things that we suppressed, which is what you're talking about with the emotional work, just
Yeah.
comes to a head. But
Yes.
also some other things you could think of as like what we, if you think of menopause as being like the other bookend to puberty. So
Mm,
if when you went through puberty, you had lots of challenges, maybe really bad periods, maybe you went on the pill because you had such bad periods, or there was some sort of hormonal imbalance that got put a band-aid on it, that will
mm.
come out at the other end as well as then we go
Ah,
to reverse puberty, like going
yeah.
out to the other side. Um, there are also just thinking, I made a note too about what's called new. Oh, when you said, oh, and these days you just don't have tolerance for stuff as much, that can go hand in hand also with, or in the same sort of bucket as forgetfulness, in forgetting things through menopause, which is not a defect. It's actually Dr. Sarah McKay talks about this in her book, the the Women's Brain, about
Mm,
it being neural pruning. So instead of thinking of our brain having all these connections that are all like crazy all over the place, that they all get trimmed back. So if you think of it as to become the wise woman that we are designed to become after menopause, that
mm.
our wisdom goes deep rather
Yeah.
than lots of little sticks and branches going, I know that fact and I that, and I know that thing from Wikipedia, and I know who the actor is, and you can ask me at work anything, and I'll be that oracle and I'll know the answers. That you
Mm,
become I forget the peripheral stuff, and I just know on a deep level, and I know it deep in my soul. And then that's what makes me become this woman that people come to who are younger, who want my advice, that type of thing,
mm.
which I think is a really powerful way to think about it, of like it's all by design. It's not
Yeah.
because there's a defect or a problem.
Oh, 100%. And I think when you're talking about the pruning, I'm like, the things that I feel like I've pruned off is like, I'm not doing other people's washing anymore. I'm not
Yes.
cooking for other people anymore. Well, sometimes
No.
I do, but I'm
Yeah.
just like, I'm not taking on all those extra responsibilities. There's a lot of stuff that
Yes.
I've pruned off. But you know what's really interesting, actually, Christie, when you said just before about that correlation you've made between anger and resentment and hot flashes, the thing that popped to my mind is those are emotions that are often linked to the liver, aren't they?
Yes.
Because,
Yes.
yeah, the only time I ever feel like I get warm or wake up warm is if I've had a glass or two of wine in an
Mm,
evening. And I think
yes.
that's the liver
Yeah. And that could be
working.
the histamines. And
Uh,
histamines,
mm,
because we have less estrogen generally when we go through menopause, then an estrogen would be helping us in our pre-menopause years to clear histamine. So then, like
right.
red wine, especially, but wine in general, processed meats, cheese. It's like your cold meat platter with your wine.
The
It's like
charcuterie
boosting
wine is a recipe for
hot
disaster.
flashes. Yes. Yes, but it is on a deeper level, it is liver clearance, definitely.
Yeah,
And there was something on that as well that I was just thinking with menopause. Okay, this is like the simplest way to explain why women get symptoms in menopause,
yeah,
which is through our before menopause years, our ovaries produce our sex hormones, progesterone, testosterone, estrogen. But
yeah.
then when we run out of eggs, then the production, think of the ovaries like a factory, and that when they don't can't manufacture anymore, the production of your sex hormones transfers to your adrenal glands, which are these little kidney shape, like little beans on top of your kidneys. And just think of them as they're your stress hormone producers, cortisol and adrenaline. This time
Mm,
of life, maybe the most stressful time of your life with managing kids, um, elderly parents, whatever else is going on. So that factory is at capacity. So it doesn't really have enough capacity to be also making the same amount of those three sex hormones that your ovaries were producing. So any deficit in the amount of hormones is symptoms. So
yeah.
when you're talking about how you haven't had many symptoms, then that could be that your transition to your adrenal glands from your ovaries has been a pretty smooth process. So a
Well,
lot of the
I've done
work,
a lot of stuff to reduce my stress as
yeah,
well.
Yes. So
Because
for
I did
me,
have adrenal fatigue about 5 years ago.
ah,
Mm.
okay. And that is,
I used to be a cardio junkie.
oh, yes.
And
Yeah.
between being in my business and going flat stick on the cardio like
Yes.
all the time,
Yeah.
and then it was doing Mount Lofty a lot and trying to always beat my personal best, and it's not a good
Yes.
recipe.
No, and I have found through a lot of work over the years with clients, and I've always loved my running as well, that
Mm.
when I hear clients say that is the only way that they can feel calm is like that hour-long run on a Sunday or whatever the run is, and then they just feel like they're just blissfully calm. I think that's because their adrenaline is, they've got so much stress hormone in their body, and running is fight or flight. It actually runs it out of their system. So it's not necessarily that they're calm, it's they're depleted.
Yeah, well,
So,
I would go like crash afterwards. I'd get home and then be like, oh, because I would also do it on like having a coffee and not eating and all kinds of crazy
ooh,
stuff. And then
yeah,
I'd crash for like an hour or two, go, oh my God, I just feel so smashed. And then, yeah,
yeah,
went to a naturopath and got that sorted out. But yeah, definitely part of the reason why I think I've brought my focus back to health. And I think why, it is really important, especially for women in business, because I think business can be one of those things that elevates your stress levels because it definitely challenges, you a lot. And,
yes,
which can be a good thing. Like we get a lot of growth from that, but it's important to be able to manage that as well, right?
yep, absolutely. Another thing with talking about the menopausal symptoms is, so for me, I find a lot that I'm working with clients to help to decrease their stress levels, but having more, as many tools as possible so that we
Mm,
find something that works for that person, because it might be, oh, you can do vagus nerve exercises or drills. And if that doesn't float their boat, then we've got some breathing techniques. If that doesn't work, we've got some sleep techniques. Having different things, even the thing of, oh, you don't like to eat very much. Like I have quite a few clients who'll be, they eat like, birds or whatever you like to call it. But that is telling me that their nervous system, they're in fight or flight, because it's not
mm,
safe to feel heavy. It's not safe to feel grounded, when actually the feeling grounded would help. But some of them will literally vomit if they eat anything over a certain amount. So then that's to working with hypno or NLP to, because it's not just about, well, what you need to do is, that's not my approach at all. It's like, okay, I am looking at you as being the master of yourself. Like, you know yourself better than I do. So,
mm.
how are we going to work out something that resonates with you? Because if you don't like it, or if you feel like I'm telling you what to do, you're not going to do it, or you won't do it for long. And also, that's, women don't respond that way. How many conversations I've had with clients who have said they've had a trainer that's gone, drop and give me 20, that type of stuff. Or, yeah,
If a
you
trainer ever
go,
tells me to do burpees, I'm out.
yes, yes, exactly. And like, women don't respond to that.
Mm,
Um, I think women don't respond well to that if they're balanced. They may respond to that if they come from an upbringing where maybe that was how they got treated and they just know
mm.
how to respond to that. But that's not necessarily healthy.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a really great approach, Christy, because in my mind, like, yeah, sure, there might be something that you think if you did this, you're going to get the most result. But if they're not going to do it, they're not going to get the most result anyway. So you're better off finding something that someone is actually going to do and get some result than just being like, oh no, this is the best way that you have to do it.
Yes, yeah, yeah. And then my approach is, how do we do this to help you to basically loosen the grip on the way you've done things in the past, to create a new path forward that has a longer term vision for you, so
Mm,
that it's complementary to your life and it's in alignment, and it's not going to take a lot of sacrifice, as in
yeah.
time wise or energy, because all the things that you want more energy, you want to feel good in your own skin, like you want to sleep better, you want to have better relationships, i.e., you want better boundaries.
Mm,
All of these things that are things that you want more control over your choices because at the moment you feel a bit at the mercy of your
mm,
cravings or those things. Like the antidote to that is actually discovering who you are underneath who you've
mm,
become because you've become, since I always say, think back to when you were 4, what were you like? What was the
mm,
essence of you? And that's actually part of what I do in my Life Live program now, the 6-week program, is to come back to the essence of you and find out what your identity truly is, your authentic identity. And from there, you can discover what you truly value and what's most important to you. And from that place, you make different choices. And
yeah.
coming from that, I use the Rocher analogy of like all that crap that's come, all the layers on the top of the identities you've become. We take those layers off gently so that then you can actually realize who you are inside. And when you come from that,
Mm,
you're not pretending, you're not telling people what to do, you're just being your honest self. And that's when you realize, oh, the reason I'm eating chocolate at 9 o'clock at night is because I've done everything for everybody else. And this is the first time that I've felt like I could even breathe. So I'm rewarding myself
yes.
with chocolate. Well, the chocolate, you eating chocolate is not bad. That totally makes sense considering you've just done everything for everyone else. But if we pare back all those layers so that then, for example, I think of a particular client with that scenario, that she makes sure that she takes a break and breathes during the day. She's got a toddler and a bit of a crazy life. So she takes a couple of minutes to breathe and she'll eat sitting down, which she never used to do. And that's slowly starting to help her to change her habits. But it's with compassion and understanding of herself, not doing it so, oh, I'm aiming to be 5 kilos lighter in a month.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And just as a side note, I've got a sneaking suspicion that I'll be looking for a Ferrero shit later because I've just been
Okay.
going, oh, and you go through all those layers and there's that
Oh,
really yummy hazelnutty stuff in the middle. Anywho, but you know what's really interesting, Christy, is I don't mind sharing that. Like, I didn't used to have a very good health focus when I was younger. And in fact, I spent years drinking way too much wine and smoking cigarettes and partying and all kinds of things, and eating junk food. And, like, I used to love Hungry Jacks and all kinds of stuff that, like, these days, yeah, I don't mind a bit of wine, but everything else seems crazy to me. But I remember thinking, like, because, I think what you kind of touched on there is often that we have these kind of behaviors or eating behaviors or drinking behaviors or, whatever else, smoking, whatever, because it's a way of dealing with stress or it's some kind of a state change. And I remember even going through in my head, I had to do some real work on myself because I was like, oh, great. Well, if I don't drink and I don't smoke and I'm not eating like chocolate, what fun am I going to have in my life? Right? And it wasn't
yes.
really about what fun am I going to have in my life. It was how am I going to manage when I don't feel settled, right? Or when I don't feel calm or when I feel agitated. And so
Yeah.
it's really finding those different ways of thinking and shifting that old stuff that would allow me to see that there was actually a different way I could live where I'd feel better than by, essentially numbing or whatever with those other
Mm.
behaviors.
They are. They're all the tools, aren't they? Like something to bring you up, something to calm you down, something to make you relaxed in social settings.
Something to
They're
numb.
all, yeah, yes.
Yeah.
And that to me is part of the identities that we create for ourselves. It's like personality. We're not born with a personality. It's created, and it's all
Mm.
created based on where we our upbringing and the people we're around. That's why for me, relationships, people and places is a massive area that I love to work within because it's incredible and how that influences how we behave, and not necessarily because we want to. It's kind of an unconscious thing, and like you would know with shadow work, people are holding up a mirror to us all the time, and
Oh, yeah.
that is something I guess for me is I've become the coach that I wish I had 20 years ago, maybe even earlier, to be able to hold space to go wherever you need to go today, we'll go there. It doesn't have to be, and coming back to the creative piece, it does not have to be a formula of, oh, here's my periodized program, and today we are doing this. And if
Mm,
you change or you say, no, I don't feel like it, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. That's that
yeah.
to me is the luxury of the sort of service that I give is the luxury is in the being able to be truly yourself. And if you want to fall
Yeah.
apart on my massage table, that's absolutely fine because I know that that's what you're meant to do.
Mm,
Or you come in for a PT session and we end up doing some hypno, like whatever. Like my goal is whatever your goal is. But I'll have
yeah.
a strategy. We'll get there eventually, but it'll be a way that feels in alignment for you, which I think it is missing a lot of the time because people are either very siloed because of the industry they work in, or that that's their way of thinking. And so that's where I'd
Mm,
say if you want a periodized program with a high performance coach, that's definitely not me. That
mm.
That's not
Yeah.
me at all.
But I think this also goes to show the depth of your knowledge and understanding because to have that much flexibility, you have to be able to, deeply understand what's going on. And, I know that, like it's similar to me when clients come in, I can just start up a conversation with someone and within not very long I can go, okay, there's this, this, and we can
Yes.
do some shifts, right? And I think that's really important. And when there is just that, oh no, this we have to do this in this session and this in this session, like there's still process and structure, I think, when
Yeah.
like you would know with someone what comes before what in a
Yes.
process of getting them to a
Yes.
result. But having that flexibility, I think really just shows your depth of knowledge and experience and skill to be able to do that. And that's really valuable. And I think it's really important for people when they are looking for somebody to help them that you do look for somebody that really you do resonate with and does actually speak about what you specifically need help about. Like they're an expert in that area because like I know recently there was a different kind of service provider, but someone that they said I've been speaking to about getting some help about something like in my business. And I said, oh, do you do that? Oh, this other thing. And they said, oh, well, yeah, we have once helped someone with that. And I was like,
Mm.
okay, yeah, no, that's not.
Yeah, and that's okay. No, I'm not going to
Yeah.
push that. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. Yeah, so I think it's really important. And being really clear about how you help people or what it is that you help people with is,
yes.
is really
And
valuable
sometimes it can
because
be, that's why I now really focus my messaging being about creating healthy habits because if we don't have the habit is obviously the combination of consistency of doing something over and over again until it becomes pretty much second nature. And that's the part where I feel like we have so much information and how many things have we saved on Instagram and Facebook or whatever. Right, I'm going to watch that or I'm going to do that. And we never do. Is that then for me, it's filtering through all of that based on what's most important to you to go, okay, yes, and you can suggest that to me and that thing. How does that all fit into the bigger picture of what's going to be relevant for you and the results that you want to get? With the results being actually those big things like more energy, better sleep, better connection with my loved ones, um, feeling like I am showing up in my business, being the real me, um, and being confident in myself.
mm,
Like those and not riding the waves of one day I feel good, the next or I have a good week and then I have a week in bed and kind of going,
mm,
I can't run a business like that. So
yeah.
and that could be hormonal, it could be gut health, it could be something underlying, like I do questionnaires on mold and candida overgrowth and different things that you're not going to get tested by your everyday practitioner. That because and often, like you said at the start, like often you'll get tested and it will be a process of going, well, it's not that, it's not that. Well, then if we've got,
And this was in a prescribed range. So
yeah, yes.
yeah.
Whereas for me, it's like if you've got a really high score for mold, I have something to help you with that. Not just, oh, well,
Mm,
we know it's mold. Sorry. but as
Mm,
in, like, let's find out what it is and then let's do a process that's going to help to resolve it as well. And I think that another big word here is agency. I love to help
mm,
women have a sense of agency to go, right, I know when I get sick or I've got a scratchy throat, I'm going to use this essential oil, blah, blah, blah. I know it's natural, but I also know it supports my health. Things
mm.
like that, of like natural or a combination of things that are like, yep, I don't have to just go, oh, well, I'm sick now. Or
Yeah.
those things. It's like if you have a sense of agency, it's like I have a sense of knowing that I have tools in my toolbox or I have solutions and it doesn't have to cost much. Like it's
Yes,
things
I
you
love
learn.
that because I think this is something that I do a bit, Christy, as well, unconsciously, is that like I don't have anywhere near the understanding of health and well-being that you do. That's not my level of expertise either. But I obviously look after my own health. And having taught NLP Master Prac and stuff, I've got an understanding of disease and all those kinds of things of what happens. But like the moment that I start feeling something's not quite right, I never ever say to myself, oh, I must have caught something from somebody. Like never. I never ever say that. I always say that something to myself like, oh, um, have I not had enough sleep? Or do I need to have a rest? Do I need to drink more water? Like there's always like, have I been eating too much processed food? Like I'm
Mm,
always looking at what is my body telling me that it needs to do different,
yes.
and I think
Yeah, and then it
that's,
makes
yeah.
sense, doesn't it? It's not this onslaught of something bad that's just happened on me or
Mm.
happened to me. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah,
There's
and I
also
think
the,
I find for myself when I do that, nothing seems to get that bad. I think the
yes.
only things that I've had a couple times been like in the last year, which is really unusual for me, is I've had some form of like food poisoning or something that I reckon I've got. One when I got back from Europe, and one when I got some takeaway food or something. And I'm like, I don't feel like there's much I could do about that apart from cook for myself more. And other than
Yeah.
that, like nothing seems to ever really hit me super hard. Like it'll come,
Yes.
but then
Well,
I just kind of
this
adjust. Yeah.
this comes back to the emotional work you've done. If you look at the
Mm.
German medicine approach, that so like the reason why kids when they start going to childcare get so sick
Oh
is they get
yeah.
overburdened with emotions around them, and they don't know how to process them, so it comes out as a physical manifestation.
Do you know what? That makes so much sense, Christy,
Mm-hmm.
because oh my God, that's just a light bulb for me. Because my daughter was at home with me till she was 2, and then she went into childcare and she got so sick in childcare and she
Yeah.
hated it. She hated
Mm,
childcare.
yes. There is a couple of elements. There's that element of like not having emotional ability. Like had a client in yesterday morning who she said, "Oh, I'm a bit under the weather. I don't know if I should come in," because she was worried about me feeling sick, getting sick. And I was like, "No, it's fine." Because I know it's not my stuff. And I also
Mm,
know that this has come as a manifestation of some emotional stuff. So
mm.
it's not sickness. Um, so I think that for me is
It's often
uh,
that healing crisis as well, isn't it? After
yeah,
people have had,
yes,
yeah, some high
yes.
stress or something. Yeah.
And also it can be that you've got the viruses and other pathogens actually have a job to do in our body. Like we're actually more other things other than human as when it comes to bacteria
Mm,
and yeast and other things in the body. They're all our outsourced work in the body.
mm.
So they're meant to be there. It's just sometimes they
Yeah.
get out of whack. But that's another whole conversation.
Well, it's like
But
when they talk about the forest floor, isn't it? And there's like fungi
yeah,
and bacteria and stuff that live on the
yeah,
forest floor, and their job
yeah,
is to break down, the
yes.
dead material and stuff
Yeah.
that
And
falls
if we
out.
didn't have that bacteria in our large intestine, which makes 80% of our serotonin that then goes to the brain, and
Mm,
people think that serotonin gets made in the brain, it's actually made as a byproduct of breaking down stuff in the gut. Yeah,
mm,
it's all
yeah.
very important. I think, and then you don't have to become a scientist about this stuff and be an expert, but even just having some of that knowledge to reassure yourself, I think can be really empowering
Mm,
that
mm,
it's because this is my new thing is let out your fears, write them down. Because if you keep
yeah.
them inside, it eats you up.
Yeah.
So write down whatever you're worried about, write out your fears, the worst fears, and how that's not living inside your body, taking up space too.
Mm, yes.
So,
Yeah.
so much that people can do. All they need is just the permission to do it.
Yeah. And this is why, I think it's, like you are a holistic life coach. And I think that's the key thing, isn't it? It's never just one thing. It's
No,
all of the things. And so
yes.
we really need to address all of those, all of the areas. There might be things that you have to actually do with your physical body, but there's might also be emotional things, there might also be mental things, there might also be
Hmm.
spiritual things. And that's how we operate, right? In our best health.
And that it also is depending where you are in your life and what you're ready for. So some people, it's just purely movement, and that with movement, we're talking.
Mm,
And when we're moving, we're more receptive.
hmm
So that can really help to be quite powerful. But it's in an environment and in a way that the person feels comfortable with. I don't want
mm,
to someone who doesn't want to sit at a table and talk out their feelings. Um, some people we don't talk about feelings at all. It really does depend on the person. Yeah, some
mm.
people come in and I just want to do the food. What do I
Yeah,
need to do with my food? We start there, and as we have more trust, then things can evolve. But it's definitely not a thing of right. You're saying you want this, but I want you to do this. Yeah, that just doesn't work.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Christy, I feel like we could talk about all of these things like forever because I know it's certainly that's one of the things that I secretly like about having guests on my podcast is I get to like talk about all the things I want to talk about. Um,
Yes.
but I know it's always helpful and I always get a lot of feedback from other people about, the interviews that I do, which is really great. But, one of the things that I know is a lot of people who listen to this podcast, like I said, do have their own business. So I would love to ask you, Christy, like, well, two parts. One is do you think has been the most challenging thing for you being in business, and what's the most rewarding thing?
The most challenging thing, which might sound really weird, is me finding my own time to do my own workouts
Ah,
because my schedule every day is different. I always say it's kind of organic, like it just every day is different for whatever reason. Sometimes people's rescheduling, but also that each day I have different types of clients. Like I do two-thirds coaching and a third personal training, which means I have all my early mornings. I have a couple of, I don't do after 6 p.m.
yeah.
But yeah, that would be my biggest challenge, I would say. Oh
And you
well,
have a studio at your
at my
home, is that
house.
correct?
Yeah,
Yeah, that
yes,
would be
yeah.
so good.
Which is great. It is good. So now I get up at 5 every morning and I go
Yeah,
out there and my husband comes with me and the dogs watch. And we do our workouts in there.
yes.
And that's the best way is just to do it right at the early time of day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's really important to note
Mm.
that because like gyms are it's such a thing now. Like
Mm.
everyone's, I don't know if everyone, that's a broad generalization, but a lot of people have got gym memberships and there's gyms everywhere, a lot more than
Mm.
ever. I don't know that it means that people are going as consistently as ever, but there is a lot more like private gyms as well. And
Yes.
which I think
Yeah.
is great because like there are definitely people who want that more intimate kind of connected, service.
Yes.
So, that's
And I
really
know with things like part of the big reason why I came from a big gym to my own studio was to also have the privacy to not feel like, oh, that guy over there is looking at me while I'm doing some exercise that makes me feel vulnerable
yeah,
or those types of things. Like,
yeah. Or
or
those
that
people that
I
don't
don't like
shower, they come in
mirrors.
and stink the
Oh,
joint up. Yeah.
yes, yes. Yeah, but I only do one-on-one sessions with people now. Like in 2022, I had 14 group sessions a week that I was doing in addition to my PT and my coaching. It was
Oh wow.
pretty full on. So yes, it's just a lot more of a calm, quiet space now. And the other
Uh,
thing you were going to ask me was, oh, the best thing,
but yes, the most rewarding thing.
most rewarding thing is, oh, having women come to me with complete overwhelm, burnout, whether it's they're at a point where they think they either think their partner is going to leave them or they're going to leave them, or they're going to leave their job because they can't do it anymore. I just want to work in a coffee shop, that type of thing. And for them to transform into this thing, confident woman with energy, knowing exactly what she wants, that she realizes that her world has changed around her without having to tell anyone what to do.
Mm,
That to me just lights me up, seeing those clients who do that, and ones who've been depressed basically most of their whole adult life,
mm,
that then like when I say completely change, it's not like it's happened in a moment. Like it's happened within a year, sometimes even more, to the point where they, with their doctors, they've come off of their medications, nothing to do with me, to kind of go, wow, I don't need this anymore. For that sort of transformation, and because I I know because it's what happens, but also what they tell me of how that's also changing their relationships with their families, with their friends, that it's creating changes within other people, which
yeah,
to me, that ripple effect is so powerful. And that's the stuff that lights me up. But whatever it is that people achieve or have come to me for, and they've got that plus more,
yeah,
that has just been so beautiful to go, right, they can just do it effortlessly now. It's not a thing of, oh gosh, if they stop eating that way, the wheels are going to fall off. That's not the intention at all. It's
mm,
about when they're being their true self, it just happens so much more easily.
yeah. Yeah, and I think, what's important in there, Christy, as well, is you kind of hit on that fact that even though sometimes people are like, oh, well, I just feel like I don't have any energy, or I feel like, I'm having trouble shifting this way, or whatever, underneath there's even deeper things like you kind of hinted at, like, oh, I'm fearing that my husband's going to leave me for somebody else, or that
Mm,
that I'm literally not going to be able to do my job and I'm going to get sacked or for underperforming, or
yeah.
something. There's those deeper things that people often don't talk about that's really there. And
Yes.
then we just hear this, oh, but I just want to have more energy, or I just want to,
And
um
that sometimes those goals are like the acceptable goal, when
yeah.
actually underneath that there's something much more painful and deeper. And I guess in that business context too, there have been many women over the years who I've met who are in corporate, um, more so than in their own businesses, but it can happen as well, where they've pushed their chronic health condition deep down, or their menopause, because they just want to keep up with their colleagues, or because they're high performing and they've got so many people under them. They don't have time, they don't have bandwidth to deal with this dodgy body that's not responding to anything. That
Mm,
having being able to share that stuff with me, so I can be working away at some sort of strategy for them, so they don't have to second guess it. They just do the bit by bit by bit, so that they can keep performing, but making small changes
yeah.
without it being an overhaul, or being I've got to take a sabbatical and I've got to take 3 to 6 months off to try and work out what's going on in my body.
Yes. Well, look, I think the good news is I'm seeing more stuff where workplaces are talking about supporting women with menopause now, which is really good because
Yes.
definitely there would have been like a whole time when, that would have just not even been considered, or considered a nuisance, or considered, whatever,
Uh,
a problem that people just didn't want to have to admit to. So
yeah.
there's some great shifts, I think, happening in that space. But yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely we need more of this conversation, and people, feeling like that there are people around like you that can support them in a really, healthy sort of way. So, I think that's so important. And speaking of, you supporting people, Christy, well, how is it like, how do people work with you? You've got some different ways that people work with you.
My 12-week signature program, which is now called the Lifestyle Reset, that's a one-on-one coaching program where we go through my 12 elements, which are um, nutrition and movement and hormones, gut, sleep, breath, mindset, stress, soul and self-connection, habits and routines, toxins and detox, and relationships. So all of those 12 bits,
Mm,
those areas, which could theoretically be one per week in that 12 weeks, but generally what happens is that um, we decipher what is most relevant to that person, and we spend the time in those areas. So
mm,
that's really deep, transformative 3 month program. Then I've got my 6 week Life Lift program, which is a group online, and that's live. I just done my first one. So happy with the results with that. They worked really well, and
brilliant.
that's like a mini version of my 12 week program. And then
Yep.
I've got my Magic in Menopause, which is specific. It's 4 weeks, sorry, it's 6 weeks, and it's 4 sessions, one on one, and that's live either in the studio or via Zoom. And that is specific to hormones, getting you back in balance. And
Mm,
then I'm now offering my Chaos to Calm 90-minute one-off session, which is a clarity session specially designed for this time of year, to help with getting rid of the overwhelm and being more present, and just giving you a bit of a strategy in what you can do moving forward from now with that clarity to be able to enjoy festive season more, to not be triggered as much by the people around you, if that's a thing, but really
yeah.
tailored to what you need. So with
Yeah.
that I'm doing a special for $150 for that clarity call, which would normally be 220. And I'm
Oh,
going to offer
brilliant.
that until it was going to be until December the 5th, but I'm going to extend that to Christmas Eve.
Oh, beautiful. So if you
Awesome.
need some clarity between now and Christmas Eve to deal with all the stuff
It
that
might be
goes on,
health, it might be more mindset. Yeah.
yeah, definitely get in touch with Christie for that. And I think it's so important because sometimes, where people are, that even just that one initial session can help create that shift enough to start moving towards where they want to be so that, if they do want to get more support or something and go into something deeper, they're in a better space to even consider that. So I think that's great that you offer that. And sometimes, one session just does sort people out with what they need. So that is a brilliant offer. And I will put the links to all the things and Christie's socials. And you're on social media as uh,
Kind.
my own kind, or
Yep. Yep.
it's my own kind
Oh,
on.
sorry, it's my own kind.
Yep,
Yes, on socials. That's right,
yep.
for Facebook and Instagram. And also, there's that freebie, my lifestyle reset quiz, which
Reset
I'd love
quiz.
people to do because that shows you what area of those 12 areas I mentioned that may need the most attention. Yeah.
Beautiful. That all that will be in the show notes. So go straight to the show notes and you'll be able to find those links there. If for whatever reason you have trouble with that, reach out to me and I will definitely hook you up with Christie as well. And I think, you know, the last two questions that I have for you, Christie, is one. What's the one thing that you'd really like people to know about working with a coach or a holistic practitioner like you that could really help them make a life-changing decision?
I think that working with a coach, it allows you to be honest. I think is probably the biggest thing is
Mm,
well, and once you have trust, to be honest in what really is bothering you
yeah.
and what you truly want underneath what you say that you want.
Yes, I love that. And that reminds me of Jordan Peterson said that, I don't know if it's in his 12 rules for life, but in something he said, if your life isn't how you want it, try being honest. And that's an NLP question as well, isn't it? It's like, what is
Mm.
it you're pretending not to know?
Yes,
That if you did know,
absolutely.
it make all the
Yeah.
difference. So I think that's so good. And that is the beauty of a coach is like someone that you can trust, that you can have a really honest conversation with, and just like unload that what you're holding with someone who knows what to do with it is so important. I love that, Christie. And finally, Christie, I know that when we have our businesses, that can become very consuming sometimes, but what is it that you do outside of your business for fun?
For me, it's playing with my dogs. And
Ah,
well, it used to be taking them for walks on the beach, but it's taking them for walks anywhere but the beach these days. Yeah, yep, that
I've
is
seen your beautiful
my
dogs on Instagram. Are they beagles?
yes, yeah.
Yes.
Brother and sister. Yeah.
Oh, and they're
Double
so cute.
trouble.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that so much. I love it.
Yeah. And
That's,
used to be for me, Mount Lofty. Yeah, doing Lofty.
oh, yeah.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
I haven't done Mount Lofty for a while now. I sometimes I
Same
think
here.
about it and then I'm like, maybe not. But
Hmm.
when I was in Edinburgh a couple of months ago when we did our Europe trips, like a friend of mine said, "Oh, you've got to do Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh." I don't know if you've ever been to Arthur's Seat.
Been to Edinburgh, but not there. Not
Ah,
no.
well, from the way he described it, I imagined it was in this nice green park and it was just like a little bit of a mountain and there was some monument on the top. Well, not that he said that, but that was just what I imagined. I got there, I was like, oh Jesus, I feel like I'm doing Mount Lofty. And like, it was quite
Oh,
rewarding when you got to the top. You could see the whole of Edinburgh and everything.
wow.
But yeah, it was that was the closest I've got to Mount Lofty in a while.
Or maybe in India you'll be doing something like that.
No, no,
No,
not going to do
no.
anything like that. No, we're just going to an abundance festival. I say
Oh,
just, it's
okay.
like 6 days of
Oh,
like
wow.
processes and music and meditations and all kinds of things. As far as I know, there's no mountain climbing. Could be surprised, who
Oh, I
knows?
see.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, but amazing. Well, Christie, thank you so much for being such a wonderful guest on the coaching circle. You've shared so many gems, and I've definitely learned things. So I've loved talking to you, and I know our guests, our listeners will as well. And of course, if you want to get in touch with Christie, like I said, get onto the show notes, check out the socials, reach out to me if you need. And yeah, super valuable. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Tony. Okay.